Hello, Internet. Happy Wednesday, May 20th. Beautiful day here in Vegas. Grateful for our incredible weather here and everything. The air feels clean, crisp. The energy here is feeling great. Today is the first day of a new project I'm taking on. And sorry, Instagram, my phone is about to die. And today, all of my charging cords decided they don't want to work anymore, which is fine. But my phone may die very soon. So I did want to come on here on live and let you guys know what's going on. But if you are enjoying the conversation as this begins and you want to get more deeply into it, please go see this live on either our Facebook page, our YouTube, our Periscope, which is Twitter's live. So you can just go to our Twitter page, it's playing there, as well as Twitch. And you can see this video live, as well as join the conversation, because what I'm doing today is not teaching anything. What I'm doing today is learning and creating the space for us to co-learn together. And the subject of what I'm going to learn today and what we can co-learn together is the Constitution of the United States. I'm just as intimidated as you would be to try to do something like this, but I think it's time. You know, this is something that I have actually been thinking about doing for months now. There was a really incredible article written by, I believe he was active duty military, and he expressed his concern with where the military has gotten. He did particularly talk about this particular political campaign that's in power right now, but he did allude that this has been a long time coming, and his grief is that soldiers take on one oath when they start their job, as do any political servant or any politician, right? So this is not just limited just to active duty military, but they take on the one oath to protect the Constitution of the United States. And what's interesting is you take on that oath, but then there's no engagement with that document itself. And so what this soldier, noted in his article is that they're so aggressively, working to protect the Constitution, yet not having any type of study or any type of exposure or even given pocket constitutions for people. And so I wanted to create a study group, a Constitution study group, similar to what you see among other communities, such as like Bible study groups, where people come together and they may read a passage together and discuss and talk about it and try to learn from it together. And I found out this is a thing, these Constitution study groups. Of course, it's called high school, right? Which is funny because, all high school students go through this experience of studying the Constitution, but really think about it. No offense to people of that age, I was of that age, but when I think back to my maturity level, my intelligence, my perspective, talking about truth, what I was discussing last week, it's so much more basic than what it is as adults and what it is as we're going through our life. And so it's almost like this is an activity that we really should be engaging in beyond just our high school years, beyond just even our college years. College being only for those that study that area. I was a scientist in college. I never even saw the word Constitution one time. Actually, no, I take that back. I did. I had to take a food law class. And actually, to be honest, when I took that class, I learned far more about the Constitution and about how our whole political systems work. More than I did in my poli-sci classes in high school. And the reason wasn't because the content was better or my teachers were better. I actually had a really great poli-sci teacher in high school. It was because of my maturity level. It was because of the perspective and the perception that I was able to apply to that study that, made me much more receptive and much more tolerant of understanding the perspective. So, I was going to do this for active military here in my tea room. I wanted to host regular study groups and engage, different active duty here in town. And of course, we would drink tea. I wanted this to be a free event. Uh, and then the pandemic happened. And so that idea went on the back burner and probably would have stayed on the back burner because I have so many other things coming up. But recently, what I've noticed is several of my peers and people I respect, and even my family, of course, our peers that I respect, have become Constitution warriors. And this is great. This is fabulous. Identifying that we all have a role in protecting our rights and protecting the rights that are stated in the Constitution. So, as Constitution warriors, which I also identify as one, I think it is our responsibility to study it and to know what we're protecting, more than just the basic overarching rules that we may know, and also understanding other people's perspectives or potential perspectives that may not be in our perspective of how we interpret the Constitution. So there are many purposes of these sessions, and from here until the indefinite future, I will be using this platform for having this Constitution study group on Wednesdays around 2 p.m. I've been kind of late to my sessions lately, but I allow myself that flexibility. Also, because I'm not teaching this class, I'm in no position to be teaching this class. Again, I have not even looked at the Constitution since I was in high school, which was, that was 15 years ago, 16 years ago. So it's been a while, and I'm not knowledgeable. I do not know these things. I am learning myself, and I'm just putting myself in this vulnerable place. While I learn, you can engage as well. And you'll see on all of our streams online, I have the link posted for visiting this session. So if you come to this link and I let you in, and please have your camera on, ideally drinking tea. It'd be great if we're drinking tea together while we have these conversations. I'd love to have you a part of this and we can kind of go through this together. If you don't want to do that, please ask questions, either through Instagram or through any of the live streams. I will, though, address those questions. Again, I have no curriculum. I have no schedule I'm trying to keep on this. I'm really trying to make this a co-learning experience. So let's begin. The Constitution is, let's just start out with what it is before we start jumping into actually reading it. So I'm taking all this information from Wikipedia, and I've double-checked the information I'm going to share with you is also vetted across other platforms too. So, I do recommend Wikipedia for its convenience, but also recommend that you double-check things and make sure they're right, because Wikipedia is an open source thing. Full of many, 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 many perspectives that we have to filter through and understand what's right and wrong for us. Again, Instagram, if this goes off, you can visit me live on any of the other social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So, the Constitution of the United States of America was created on September 17th, 1787. And it was presented on September 28th of that same year. So just less than 2 weeks later, it was ratified on June 21st, 1788, and it became effective on March 4th, 1789. So it took a couple of years there for everything to get processed, like a year and a half, for this to come together and to get processed and signed. So then the actual implementations, all right, I'll go through the rest of these. So there's 3 branches that are established in the Constitution. So Constitution is not just about our rights. It's also about how our government is set up, right? So you have 3 branches: the executive, the judiciary, Um, established the Electoral College. First legislature happened on March 4th, 1789. So the day it was affected already started working. Great. That means things are working. It means it was wanted and needed. I mean, I can't even imagine what this country must have been like at that time. Right? How people, there was probably a state of hope, a state of unknown and uncertainty, similar to what we're experiencing right now. Probably more hope than uncertainty, which got something like this to be created and put together, in such a short period of time, really. That's not so much of a long period of time. A year and a half to create it and get it all implemented. The first executive happened April 30th, 1789, so that same year, about a month and a half later. So I guess that's like the first elected official that came out of it. And then the first courts were established on February 2nd, 1790. So that took, another 6 months after that. As part of the Constitution, there are 27 amendments. The last amendment happened on May 5th, 1992. Pretty relevant. Perhaps another one to come soon. Who knows? We'll see. I'm sure in this process of studying this and talking about current sentiments in the community, and I'm not going to use the word politics, because that word is so archaic and stagnating for what we need right now. And not just in this country, but in this world. And as this country, as an influential leader of the world, we have a certain responsibility that our actions and our leadership will affect the rest of the world. The Constitution is located at the National Archives building. It was commissioned by the Congress of the Confederation and is authored by the Philadelphia Convention. There are 39 signatories of 55 delegates. Written on parchment. Little thing. Okay, so, and this supersedes the Articles of the Confederation. So prior to the Constitution, we had the Articles of Confederation. Let's see, and that was structuring the government of the 13 original states, and it was our first constitution, and that was all approved on November 15th, 1777, which was just 10 years prior to the Constitution. So again, like a really fast changing times, to have implemented a document like the Articles of the Federation, which is our Articles of Confederation, which was the Constitution. It was our law of order of how things were going to happen, and to have to expand and modify and apply to a new situation within 10 years is a pretty fast turnaround. So here is the definition from Wikipedia. The Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the United States of America. The Constitution, originally comprised of 7 articles, delineates the national frame of government. Its first 3 articles embody the doctrine of the separations of power, whereby the federal government is divided into 3 branches. So again, nothing to do with rights or just to do with what is government and how is government structured. The 3 branches are the legislative, consisting of the bicameral Congress, that's Article 1, the executive, consisting of the president, Article 2, and the judicial, consisting of the Supreme Court and other federal courts, and Article 3. Article 4, 5, and 6 embody concepts of federalism, describing the rights and responsibility of state governments. All right, so that's where it's going to get juicy, and I'm sure we'll spend most of our time focusing on the states in relationship to the federal government and the shared process of constitutional amendments. Article 7 establishes the procedure subsequently used by the 13 states to ratify it. It is regarded as the oldest written and codified national constitution in force. Huh. That is interesting. I didn't know that. There we go. Learning something new already. So again, it is the oldest written and codified national constitution in force. So I'm sure that there have been other constitutions or, other national, constitutions, but this is the oldest one that is currently in action. So another reason why, we do have a responsibility as a world leader to keep it relevant and to keep ourselves educated on it, and of course warriors of it. We should all be very proud of this. I'll be right back. 1 second. I need some tea, and I didn't have my pitcher, so I can make tea now. So a little heavy here, but I know this is going to be good, and the more people that get involved with this, the better. I really hope that this can become, a resource for us to learn and to learn to support each other as well. So since the Constitution came into force in 1789, there's 27 amendments, and one of those amendments repealed previous amendments. So, really hammers in the fluidity of this, which should make us optimistic that there is opportunity for change and there is opportunity for holding our government and holding ourselves accountable for progress and making those changes. In order to meet the needs, so this is why it got repealed. In order to meet the needs of a nation that has profoundly changed since the 18th century. In general, the first 10 amendments, known collectively as the Bill of Rights, offer specific protections of individual liberty and justice and place restrictions on the powers of government. The majority of the 17 later amendments expand individual civil rights protections. Others address issues relating to federal authority or modify government processes and procedures. Amendments to the United States Constitution, unlike ones made to many constitutions worldwide, are appended to the document. All 4 pages of the original U.S. Constitution are written on parchment, as I stated before. Today, I'm going to drink some Kanoka Assam black tea. So Instagram, it looks like my phone's about to die. So if you want to continue this conversation about the Constitution, please join us on Facebook or YouTube. There we go. Nice malty, buzzy tea to keep me focused and alert while reading this. That was the one thing I do remember in high school when, we were studying this was I found it quite unrelatable and boring. Like the language itself, which I think is really important if you're, trying to instill this knowledge to perhaps reiterate things or, I just remember my teacher having us read things literally. And again, at that time, I didn't have the maturity or the knowledge or perspective to really understand relevance of things and how things were really connected to me, right? We're selfish beings, and that's okay. There's really nothing wrong in our selfishness as long as we understand that we are just a part of a bigger part. Then we're not selfish, but who's counting? I got a new picture today. This is not new. I've had this. I actually acquired this from a studio in Seattle of a collector of wabi-sabi Japanese ceramics. I feel really fortunate to have this. It works in so many ways. See, it's so wide that even if I pour water in here, it cools water really well. And like even this tea, it's still really warm. Having used this as a pitcher is going to help cool the tea in a timely manner. So by the time I pour it into my cup and take a sip, I'm not going to be shocked with very hot tea. And that is an important part of Gong Fu Cha, of skilled tea service, is ensuring that the cup that you serve is not too hot to drink. But still doing that while with grace, not making your guest wait too long for you to pour the cup for them. So little tricks like this really help with that. Yeah, you're under another constitution. I get that. So yeah, if you live somewhere else and not in the United States, like I still am grateful that you're participating in this because, of course, one, it's good for everybody to understand and under which context the United States is operating. Of course, to be sure you've lived here before, so you know firsthand. But as things are shifting and as our country is unfortunately under scrutiny right now because of our political platforms. And that scrutiny is not all negative. Like I've been to places in the world where that scrutiny is actually positive. Like people are actually enthusiastic about the United States' current political platform, which means that they're engaging with our Constitution essentially. So I think it's relevant. So if you're in another country and you're listening to this and you think, I don't need to hear this, I understand and I'm not offended, but I also encourage you to also be a part of this because, again, this is the longest running, state documents, state constitution that's in action now. So there's relevance there. And then also, too, like the ethos of the United States at that time when the Constitution was written is an ethos that I believe a lot of the world looks up to. And so, I think the purpose of this activity and what I want all of us to acquire from this activity is understanding that ethos and kind of understanding the mathematics and the strategy that was set up at that time and has been evolved and, amended to change with our changing time. But again, like the base and the foundation of that document is still the same thing that was originally written. The oldest state constitution in the world. So yes, Dimitri, I know you're under another constitution, and if you wanted to have a constitution study group, I'd be really enthusiastic and excited to join that so I could learn, because I want to learn other perspectives as well. Good tea. Thank you for letting me take my tea break. According to the United States Senate, the Constitution's first three words, "We the people." All right, so that's one thing I think we all know. That's in the preamble, which I'm going to read before the end of this session. I will read that, and then my intention is that by later sessions, by next week and the following Wednesdays, we'll be getting into all the different articles and, really getting into the juicy parts of the Bill of Rights, which I think is really what is on the hot plate right now. In people's defense of why or why not the government has a right to tell us what to do. And these are all very sticky situations and not meant to be intimidating. We're meant to be discussing this. We're meant to be having really intelligent and understanding and tolerant conversations with each other about this. So we the people affirm that the government of the United States exists to serve its citizens. For over 2 centuries, the Constitution has remained in force because its framers wisely separated and balanced governmental powers to safeguard the interests of majority rule and minority rights, of liberty and equality, and of the federal and state governments. The first permanent constitution of its kind, adopted by people's representatives for an expansive nation, it is interpreted, supplemented, and implemented by a large body of constitutional law and has influenced the constitutions of other nations. See? So there is relevance of, engaging with the United States Constitution because it's the first one, it's the longest running one, and it has influenced many others. And, we're kind of bullies, or we're kind of positive influencers, or we're kind of big deals, as a country, as a economic force, as a military force. So yeah, you want to I think it's good to stay engaged with that. So I think that's enough of the Wikipedia. There's a whole bunch of other detail, and if you want to read it, I'd recommend you go check it out. But for now, I'm going to start reading. Let me zoom in. My computer's kind of far away, so. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. There you go. Dimitri, I am drinking a black tea, a hand-rolled, hand-harvested, fully loved black tea from Assam, India. This is called a Kanoka Assam. Hi, Kayla. Thanks for joining. I'm talking about the Constitution today. Intimidating to take on. But it's not that much, Like, if you look at it section by section and take it on, it's not that much. So, yeah, I just went through the preamble. That was short. That was easy. So, we the people, right? So that's the context in which we're all even living today. I mean, 1789 to today, that's, a long time to hold on. Oh boy. You're right. So every Wednesday at this time, I'm going to do this. And I really hope that this turns into a thing. I really hope that this develops a following and an engagement. And again, I am not teaching anything. I haven't looked at this stuff since high school. So, and now that I'm looking at it now, I'm like, this is not that intimidating. This is incredible. And, I just keep seeing Constitution, protect the Constitution. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's know what we're doing. So that's what we're doing. Kanoka Assam, Dimitri. It is a very nice tea, very smooth. The Assamica variety of tea plant, which is the broadleaf tea plant. You have the Sinensis varieties, which originate from China, which thrive in higher elevation, more extreme conditions, have the smaller leaf sets that yield typically a sweeter, more subtle tea, while the Assamica varieties, which thrive in the lower elevation, kind of flatlands, common of Assam, India, as well as other places. A lot of these varieties you're seeing across Africa and across South America as well as in high quality tea producing countries like China and Taiwan. You will see this, but it usually does grow better in lower elevations, and that broadleaf yields a more punchy, brisk, malty character to it. And so this has that brisk, malty touch. And I say touch other than punch, because usually I would say punch. You think of like an English breakfast, or you think of a tea that is really strong, like milk tea. Think about like Hong Kong style milk tea, teas that you would add milk and sugar to. You would want a punch, because the milk and the sugar is going to kind of soften things up. So you want the tea to come through. And so that's why I say punch. But this is a touch. This is like a little delicate, sweet touch. And this tea surprises the heck out of a lot of people. And, I always use the example of high quality Chinese tea buyers and tea tasters and tea masters because, their palates are refined, and not just their palate, it's just their understanding of the quality of tea is really refined. And they say, yeah, I would love to drink tea from around the world, from India. It seems more it seems more it's cool to try teas from different parts of the world. And they say, yeah, but all the tea I've ever tried from India has all been bitter. And so that's kind of like their way of saying punch. Punch in the face with bitterness or with harshness. And they say it's not sweet. Tea should be sweet because, in Chinese tea culture, they're not adding milk and sugar to it. They're wanting to drink it like this, just brew it simply and drink it on its own and enjoy it that way. And I said, no, you can make sweet tea from those types of plants. Like they're thinking that all Indian tea is bitter, not just because of the craftsmanship and processing, but in the plant variety itself. They say, no, it's impossible. The tea that grows there is just bitter, it's rough, it's harsh. And I'll brew a tea like this for them and tell them, hey, yeah, this is Assam. Assam. And Assam is like if you go to a boba shop, you'll see Assam on the menu. It doesn't mean it's coming from Assam. It just means it's the Assamica variety of plant, which could have been grown in Vietnam or Taiwan or wherever. And yeah, they know Assam to be like this very kind of intense, punchy flavor and briskness that does take to sugar and milk well. And I say, no, this is Assamica, but it's just made with love, just like how Chinese teas are made with love. They're made with positive intention and attention to detail and, high quality mastery. Awesome. I never seen it that way. Awesome. We always say like awesome Assam, but Assam reminds me of possum, the way you wrote that. So yes, Assam tea can be very good. It can also be very bitter and harsh. And you want that if you're going to be, creating a milkshake. You want, that unique flavor to carry through, or else it's just going to be sweet. So that's that. So back to the Constitution. We the people. So the goal of this is to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for common justice. I'm so sorry, I read that wrong. Provide for common defense. That's an interesting. I want to focus more on that one, but of course I'm going to go back and focus on promote the general welfare. Wow. Okay, we're going to definitely look at that one. And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Okay, so each one of those, let's look at it. Form a more perfect union. That's easy to understand. I don't think that that's a polarizing goal. So I think we can move on from that. I get it. If you guys get it, I mean, again, please text your questions, or better yet, come to this link, this link up here, and we will talk face to face about it. And no right or wrong answer. This is discussion, and of course, I do welcome that discussion to be relevant to our current times, right? Okay, so I'm not wanting you to come in as a scholar and teach us all these things. These have all been very simple words that should all be within our vocabulary. A couple of them I do want to go back and really dig deep into them. But yeah, this is very basic stuff. So please ask your questions if you want. No wrong question. Establish justice. Okay. That one's easy too. But just for fun, I am going to look that word up. Because I want to make sure. I use that word all the time. And I just want to make sure that, like, I know that word. And that we all know that word. So, Merriam-Webster, justice as a noun. And was it used as a noun here? Established justice, yes. I guess it can't be anything else. What am I thinking? It not a noun. It totally is a noun. Only a noun. See, I'm not that smart. I just like am open. I'm open to learning new stuff, right? So please learn with me. Okay. The maintenance or administration of what is just, especially by the impartial adjustment of conflicting claims or the assignment of merited rewards or punishments. Okay. The administration of law. Okay, so that's a hard one. I think I like that first one better. The quality of being just, impartial, or fair. Okay, that's cool. That's easy. So justice is not just about tit for tat. You know, it's not just about like karma, everything balancing out. It's also about impartial or fairness. Conforming to truth, fact, or reason. Wow. All right, Dimitri, you just went there. So Dimitri writes, let's talk regarding the Constitution of how you compare the isolation process in different countries. Yeah. Okay, so that's the whole point of why I'm doing this, guys. I'm like beating around the bush, trying to take this step by step, which I continue and I will continue. But Dimitri, you want to take it there, and that's cool. That's what I want to do here because that's the context in which people are defending the Constitution in this moment right now, especially on social media, because social media, in its great ability of connecting us and letting us share ideas, just like what I'm doing right now. Has also empowered people to start utilizing the Constitution as a tool, of their ideas, which I encourage as well. But how do we exactly apply that Constitution? So based off of what I've said already, I know I haven't gone into all the details. We'll do that in following shows. This is just a very basic introduction of what is the Constitution and what it stands for. How does it compare to the isolation process in different countries? Okay, so the isolation process itself. So Dimitri, I think that there are like multiple ways to look at this. And so maybe if you want to like comment more about what you mean by that. So there's like the forced, ordered, like executive ordered isolation. And then there's like this cultural understanding isolation. And I guess because I'm talking about the Constitution right now, that involves government. So I'm going to assume that you're talking about like the force, like the executive force of isolation. And that is what people are defending and fighting right now. That the Constitution does not give the government that power to make those decisions. It's an intense, deep question. But according to these rules, and just in the preamble, because I've just been looking at the preamble. I mean, I guess I can go down and look. What was that? The articles that highlight what rights the state has. We would need to look deeper into that. And let me do that. Actually, that's a good idea. I do that. That way, this all gets documented correctly. So this is in Articles 4, 5, and 6. The rights and responsibility of state governments, the states in relationship to the federal government, and the shared process of constitutional amendment. So that would be it, 4, 5, and 6. And let me go back and see how long those are. Okay. does seem long. Okay, I'm going to read it for you guys because it's not that long. And we'll do this again in another week. I will look at it. Let me look at the comments. We kind of have a martial law in our country. Dimitri, please describe more on that. And you can just like briefly share, or if you want to share an article to more detailed describe what Jesus said, because that's pretty serious, and that's something like here in the States we're not hearing about. The media is not talking about that. You want to come back to the U.S.? That's funny. Thank you. Most people are like, we want to get away from the United States, and I'd say like, hold on, let's be patient. Let's like really count our blessings and really understand the context in which we're operating. But Dimitri, I've got to say, you are here now. You are here talking with me now, so that is a blessing in itself as well. But I would like to understand a little bit more of the martial law that you are talking about. And while you are getting that information up, I am going to read Articles 4, 5, and 6 that involves what is the state's powers and what is the state's relationship with the federal government, and the amendment process. Section 1, Article 4. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state, and the Congress may by general laws describe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effect thereof. Full faith and credit shall be given. Public acts, records, and judicial proceedings. Okay, so this basically says that the state has jurisdiction. It hasn't talked about its in the relationship to federal. I'm sure that's coming up. Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime, who shall flee from justice and be found in another state, shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. Okay, done. No person held in service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another, shall in consequence or any law of regulation therein be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. Okay, Section 3. Sorry, I'm not going into details of those. I'm really trying to just like point out and highlight what's important in this conversation. Section 3. New states may be admitted by the Congress into the Union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states or parts of states without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned, as well as the Congress. Okay? Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belongings to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or any particular state. Congress shall have power to dispose of or make any needful rules. Okay, so yeah, so then Congress trumps state. I see. Dimitri in Russia. So now, Dimitri, you've got me curious about what's going on in Moscow. I'm gonna have to do some research after I finish here, just because I'm curious about what level of martial law and all of that. I am not very educated on Russian current affairs. But sounds very interesting, Dimitri. Thank you so much for sharing. If you want to share more, please feel comfortable to share more. You can also not share more. Also feel comfortable to not share more. It is your choice. Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. Interesting. So this is like where interpretation can kind of give the executive, well, give the legislature as well as the executive some room to do something like martial law or unjust martial law or whatever the application could be. I mean, maybe we should better define this word, protect each of them against invasion. What does that mean? Invasion of a virus? Is that included in this? Is that what would give the executive, so the executive is the president, is that what would give the president the power to do something crazy? Domestic violence, so like protect each against invasion and against domestic violence. So those are two very broad terms that could be interpreted very. You have to have masks and gloves everywhere. Dimitri, what? I'm also going to look this up myself, but how are the numbers in Russia? Because someone was telling me, one of my conspiracy theorist friends, and love him, was telling me from their perspective and their research that there is a big bias in how this pandemic has affected different countries, and he was saying that Russia hasn't been affected. So now you're saying that everybody has to have masks and gloves everywhere. And what is the consequence if you don't have masks and gloves? That's interesting. I know here in the States, like I was saying, right, in the Constitution, each state has a jurisdiction to create their own rules of how they want. And President Trump here in the beginning of this pandemic was very clear in saying that he was going to allow the states all to make their own decisions and how things would work out. And of course support them. And like I just said here, when things really get crazy, the legislature as well as the executive, well, the legislature first, but if they can't convene and take care of something, then the executive has the right to take care of something in protecting us from invasion or domestic violence. But the states do have that power. And some states and even some counties have very different. It's so interesting. Like you could be in one city. Like I went to go visit my sister in Fresno, and Fresno has a mask order. You have to wear them everywhere in public. Like not if you're walking or running, but if you go to a public, what's deemed as a public place, I would assume that would be a store or mall or wherever, what business you're going to or public venue that you're meeting at, you need to have a mask. No gloves, but just mask. But then the next town over, like literally less than a mile over, you can go in and they're completely open, including, restaurants being open, I think. So very interesting how this country is broken up and the powers are distributed, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. So moving on. Article 5. Okay, so that was Article 4. I finished all of Article 4, so that just kind of established what is the states and what powers that state has. You have a weekly pass for grocery store and pharmacy only 2 times a week. So 2 times a week. I've heard of this in other places. So I have a friend in the Philippines, as well as, who else was I talking to, where they said they can only go to the store once a week, actually. And actually only one member of the family can have the pass to go out. So you kind of have to deem somebody to be your runner, essentially, to run your errands for you. But you said martial law, so and that's something I'm going to look that word up as well right now, just so that we can be on the same page, because that's a word that's been thrown out a lot. Martial law is a law applied in occupied territory by the military authority and of the occupying power. The law administered by military forces that is invoked by government in an emergency when the civilian law enforcement agencies are unable to maintain order and safety. So you said you're under martial law, so I'm assuming that means that the like local authorities are not strong enough to enforce this ruling or this order that you're saying of masks and gloves everywhere, weekly pass for grocery store and pharmacy 2 times a week, that they have to invite military powers to enforce this. So yeah, I guess martial law doesn't exactly mean that they're out and about the streets and unjustly capturing people or whatever, the whatever image that sensationalized media puts around martial law. I mean, I think there could be room to say that martial law could be a very peaceful thing, right? It's just the need of additional resources to enforce some type of order. And that could be like distributing aid, right? Or distributing goods or resources, and just the local authorities, the local police force, the local state authorities, city, municipal authorities. Yes, we have military somewhere in some regions. And that's a polarizing thing. If military is just there, they're just occupied and just there, even if they're not doing anything aggressive or violent, it is very intimidating. That's something in India. So I guess we could say, India is under martial law all the time because their military is everywhere. And I personally have never had a negative, one time, well, it wasn't even negative. I just had a weird interaction with the military on a train where they were actually hassling and bullying all the local people on this train, and they let me go. And didn't, well, I was like purple and green in the face because I was sick on this train all night long, and I think they knew, okay, let's not mess with this girl. But I think that there was an additional layer of privilege that I had of why they didn't mess with us. But it was quite a scary situation because they just came on board our train. It was just middle of the day in the week, early in the morning, and it was just a peaceful train. It was a sleeper car, and everybody just woken up, and we made a stop at one of the stations, and like 6 armed military personnel came on board and just started they were pointing their guns at people and telling them to open their bags and show they were, just basically frisking everybody. And that was scary. And, I don't know what their purpose was. It could have just been self-serving, not from some type of platform given orders to them to do one thing or another. They could have just individually been exploiting their power to get something that they wanted, money, bribes, or whatever. But, just the fact that they're allowed to be out and about like that with their weapons, it's intimidating, They have checkpoints at several different places, and yes, there's a lot of corruption and bribing going on there. But, I mean, the government is still supporting all of that. Something else about the Indian government I've learned recently is that they have, by far the biggest, internet and media cutoff of any country. I would take me a little time to find the link to give you guys the exact numbers, but it's several different countries utilize their power to turn off the internet or, cut off telephone lines or whatever to, keep people quiet or keep information from sharing. That's a very common thing. But in India, it is a super common thing, and the hours of internet cutoff are far more in India than in any other country. So I don't know if that's necessarily martial law, but that's just censorship, which, it's all related to the Constitution. Thank you, Dimitri, for sharing. Really appreciate that. Okay, Article 5. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as the parts of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment may which be made prior to the year 1808. Okay, 1808. Wouldn't that be fun if we still wrote years that way? How long that took me to figure that out. Okay. Shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses of the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate. Okay. So that's just pretty clear cut. It's not clear cut, but it's just describing the amendment process. Makes sense. So amendments is Article 5. Article 6, all debts contracted and engagements entered into prior or before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under the Constitution as under the Confederation. Okay, got it. Old news. This Constitution and the laws of the United States shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound, and thereby anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Okay, supreme law of the land. Got it. The senators and the representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers of both the United States and several states shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. All right, thank goodness, because I would fail all of those. But I'm also not seeking qualification of any office or public trust. But who knows? Who knows? So that's it. That was 4, 5, and 6. Very short. Didn't really say much in detail about what powers the states have. You know? So, I think we'd have to, in order to go further into this conversation, Dimitri, about how the Constitution applies to these, executive orders of isolation, we'd have to look deeper into the Bill of Rights and the amendments. Which I will read right now. Not that bad. So, preamble. The conventions of a number of the states having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence in the government will be best to ensure the beneficent ends of its institution. Resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives in the United States of America, in Congress assembled 2/3 of both houses, concurring that the following articles be proposed to the legislature of several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States. All or any of which articles, when ratified by 2/3 of the said legislatures, to be valid of all intents purposes as part of the said Constitution. So you see what I mean? Like, a lot of words to confuse you for something very simple. Don't worry. If you lost me in what I just read, don't worry. It's okay. Articles in addition to an amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislatures of several states pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution, right? So I just read the 5th article to you, which I feel like the 5th article is a lot easier to read than this preamble, but we love to make things complicated, don't we? Okay, so Amendment 1. And I wasn't expecting to get into this today, but it seems that there's some interest, so I will. But in future weeks, when I do this again, I will look at these again, and we'll look into detail and maybe look from different perspectives and apply it to different things. And so today, what we're trying to apply it to is the state's rights of executive order of isolation in regards to our Bill of Rights. So, Amendment 1. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So, yeah, freedom of speech, freedom to do what we want, freedom to believe what we want, freedom to share what we want, just like what I'm doing right here. Thank you for that right. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay. My arms is a little different, but that's my personal opinion. That's my First Amendment letting me choose which arms I want to keep and bear. So Second Amendment is, right, keep and bear arms. Amendment 3. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Cool. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So that's a big one. Again, there is room for interpretation. There is room for what is this? This oath or affirmation. You know? So what is this oath or affirmation? So, I mean, I guess that's like a search warrant, right? Like that's like the official government document that's used for justifying a search or a seizure of something. Yeah, Dimitri. And so that's what makes America unique and privileged. So yeah, that's why I'm doing this. Like, I want to make sure that like we really understand that privilege. And thank you, Dimitri, so much for sharing your perspective, because it is really putting into perspective. You know, you're saying that your government doesn't have these amendments, but we do. So we should understand them, especially if we're going to be using them to justify our opinions about how our government should be behaving. Because we should. Like, this is the document that we should be citing and looking at and making judgments on our governments. So, yeah, I'm curious about this oath or affirmation, and particularly describe, okay, so, you know, like, I think that this amendment could be used to describe the right or wrong of these executive orders of isolation, right? So from the citizen point of view, we could say, you have no right to tell us what to do, how to live our lives, where we can go, where we can't go. And the government can say, well, we have a right when we have this oath or affirmation. And so that oath or affirmation could be, you know, each state has like their own written executive orders. You know, so it could be argued that those are the oath or affirmation of why they're allowed to search or seize, you know, if you're not following these rules. So, interesting, you know, it's a slippery slope. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia, where in actual service in time or of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy or of life or limb, not shall be compelled in any criminal case to be witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Okay. Dimitri, from your perspective from the outside, and I'm not too sure how much media coverage, you're getting about what's going on in the United States right now. But you're friends with a lot of people in the United States, obviously. I mean, you're friends with me and you're watching these, so you're getting exposed. You're hearing what I'm saying about things, and I'm talking pretty freely. Over the past few months, I've been doing these live videos and talking pretty freely about my opinions about what's going on. What is your perspective about like the privilege? I mean, you've obviously expressed that you have some level of, I wouldn't say envy, but looking up to this Constitution or living within this Constitution. Yet there are people that are utilizing this Constitution to justify that things are unfair and unjust for us here in the States. So as an outsider, like, does that make you feel like not good? Does it make you feel like we're ungrateful or we're entitled? Yeah, I just think it's kind of interesting. And I know it's just your opinion, and you're welcome to share your opinion and not feel any judgment for that opinion or feel like you're gonna offend us or offend me or whoever else is watching and identifies as a citizen of the United States. But it's interesting, to think about that perspective from an outsider's point of view. Maybe you don't feel like people are entitled. Maybe you feel that people are proud and people have the right. I think they do. I just want to make sure. I don't want to make sure because I have no power over these things, but I envision that people do these activities in any direction that they do them, that they do them with mindfulness and with knowing what they're working with versus just reading a headline on a clickbait article and you feel they're more secured. Ah, that's a good one. That's a positive. I like that. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, we are more secured. So, like, we're more protected, that, like, we can speak our mind. And that's very true. I mean, I, of all people, understand that privilege. And I'm grateful for that privilege. I don't want to ever exploit that privilege. And what's the word now? The word Karen. Such a dirty word now. Of someone that has some type of privilege and just exploits it without understanding that I'm working with them. We have a monarchy. And there could be some value in a monarchy. I've heard that before. I've heard there's value in it. Yeah, I just want to be coming from a place of gratitude, but also taking advantage of that privilege. Like, take advantage of it while at the same time respecting it. And so I feel that all the time. Doing so much work in a place like India. I keep talking about India, but that's just such a good example of a place where the security is not so high, or it's high for some and not others. There's a very big disparity in security there. And some of the things that I talk about and some of the You go, we have monarchy, and then you go directly to naming a single name. That's so interesting. So it's much more than just a monarchy. It's a single individual. You know, I don't know if we could. I guess some people, in a personal opinion, could say our leader is specifically what we have. That's the law we have. We have our leader. Our law is our leader. No, we have a constitution. And our leader is within that constitution, right? The executive is like 1/3 of the whole piece of that puzzle. So, yeah, it's powerful. Um, but we also have the security and the power to hold that human being with a heart and a brain. Yes, they all have hearts and brains. We can hold that human being accountable. And so I think that's the healthiest approach to this. You know, some people say I have way too much patience. I'm like, yeah, like what else am I gonna have? Like hatred? No, like that's not gonna get us anywhere. Yeah, we have to have patience because yeah, everybody has a heart and a brain, and we're all made of the same energies. So like, let's get it, you know. So yeah, Dimitri, you're in a very different situation, and wow, what a cool experience to like launch this event. Which like I was so intimidated to get this thing started. I've been freaking dragging my feet. Like I've started thought about this months ago. To do these types of events here in my tea room, and here I am on the internet, broadcasting it to the whole world. But I was so um, how many times has your constitution been changed by the monarch? And when was the last time it was changed? I said 1992 is the last time the United States Constitution been changed, and then I had also read about amendments that it takes 2/3 vote from all houses, as well as the executive to approve that. So it's not just a single one that can approve that. But yeah, I'd be interested to know in Russia how many times the Constitution has been changed, how frequent those changes happen. Because, yeah, then, like, the more it changes, like, there's value in change, right? It says that in the Constitution. I had said it a lot. All those, like, those words that was, like, 3 paragraphs long that could have been said in a couple of words of, like, adaptability is strength. That's basically what the Constitution could have said. Can you imagine if a bunch of hippies wrote the Constitution? We are going to hold space for everybody's thoughts and feelings. um, yeah, the change is necessary for adaptability of times, of culture, but then too much change and too much power, too much concentrated power of that change within a single perspective could be a person or could be an entire platform or could be a whole community party, but just like one particular perspective could be very dangerous. So you're in the process right now of some change. Oh, that's interesting. I'm like Dimitri. I'm so stoked. I'm like after I get off this call, I'm gonna go research what's going on in Russia. I hope I don't get any extra bots on my computer watching what I'm doing. I'm sure I will, but they're already here. I've surrendered. I'm here. Like I'm here to empower the people and do that thing. So yeah, I was really intimidated to do this, and here we are. Dimitri, you're like providing this like very interesting perspective on what I'm doing right now, and I'm very grateful for that. Kayla, yeah, you too. I'm sure you're getting a kick out of hearing this. So, and everybody else, it looks like there's some viewers here, so I'm grateful for that, and hopefully in the future, you guys will feel comfortable in my vulnerability and would want to step up and engage more in this conversation. Okay, Dimitri, I did hear about that. So you're saying the government trying to change the Constitution to extend the president terms. I did hear about that. And that's actually something I started hearing about like maybe 2 years ago or last year. I mean, it's a thing actually that's been around for a while now, that rumor. Um, and that's something that people even joke about here, you know. But I don't know if if those powers have that much concentrated power here. It's interesting. The concentrated power here in the U.S. is like completely outside of the Constitution. It exists and it generates its power completely parallel to the Constitution. And that's what scares me. And that's what I want to change. So, like, I know I can't change politics. I mean, maybe I could, but the effect of my change would be far less influential than I believe the change could be affecting commerce. And that's where that power is that I'm speaking of. That is outside of the Constitution. Nothing in the Constitution says anything about the rights of a business, and individuals within a business. And so that there's room for an amendment there, but rather than trying to implement those changes in our Constitution, that could come later. We can instill that change now, inspire that change now, because the corporate world, the economy, capitalism, there's no constitution of the capitalism. It's like, it just is. I mean, that's the beauty of capitalism. And, I love capitalism, actually. Hippie that says that, it's true. And a big part of why there may be understanding about what I just said is that the definition of capitalism is very different, especially the definition I'm using. And not to say that anybody else's definition is wrong, but like, let's increase our perspective to understand this, that capitalism is much more than this like evil greed. The evil greed is what's currently infesting it right now. Capitalism is justice. It's exchange of value, right? So if you think about it from that perspective, like, let's like hold true to if true capitalism was happening in our world right now, like, we would be in a state of harmony, but it's not, obviously. So we have to inspire capitalism, and there's no constitution for capitalism. Maybe there should be. Maybe I'll write that just for fun, just for shit and giggles. I'll write something like that. Just to at least just like plant that bug in people's head, and just like, even if it's a joke, and it'd be better as a joke, because then it'd be easier to swallow, and of course more viral, which is always the goal these days. But yeah. And Dimitri, we know each other from business context, right? So of course, you know how things work. But this pandemic is offering a very valuable opportunity to inspire, these changes that I'm talking about. So let's not be afraid of them, and just do it. So I ended on Amendment 5, which was about, crime, which is cool, but not directly related to what we're talking about right now. Amendment 6, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district within the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Okay? More about the criminal process. In Amendment 7, in suits at common law where the value is controversy shall exceed $28, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States and according to the rules of common law. Yeah, so a lot of this is about, criminal law. Amendment 8, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. I guess maybe this is what people are are associating our executive orders of isolation with. No, I'm just joking. Cruel and unusual punishment. Amendment 9. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Okay. And then Amendment 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. Or to the people. Huh. That is interesting. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So that means, yeah, state jurisdiction is, over federal or to the people. So that's interesting. Huh. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. So maybe on another week, because I'm about to sign off. I've been on here for a while now, but I think on another week I am going to look at this more, because that could be the answer. There's no answer, but that could be, something here that. Is applicable about, like, do people have the right to make the choice about how they're responding to this, or does the state? Sorry, I'm reading, so I'm. There's a lot of interpretations of this. So, I mean, these are all just saying, oh, it's simple. It's just restating that the state has jurisdiction over federal. But, like, the thing that confuses me and that makes me curious about this is in the last line, or to the people. So it kind of leaves it open-ended that potentially individuals could, their perspective or, their rights could go over the states. But all these interpretations that I'm reading do not address that last line of or to the people. So yeah, I'm going to research that more. And then next week, I'll start out talking about this. And then, since I've already gone through the Bill of Rights, so I've gone through all of the first 10 amendments, and those are the Bill of Rights. And we'll go over them again, of course, because, that's like the juicy parts. And, but then next time I do want to go back and revisit the first 3 articles, which describe kind of the government structure, which I'm sure you guys will find all very boring, but I will, instead of reading all of it, because it's very wordy. It's very wordy. I don't want to lose you. I will, abridge it, or, break it down, so we can easily swallow it, because it's easy. I mean, that's stuff that could be, easily understood through some visualization, and not really the purpose of what I wanted to do this study group on. The purpose of the study group is to really understand what rights are established here and how are they relevant, especially to what's going on right now. I think people need it. I want to provide this platform for people to safely and calmly and lovingly talk about these very deep issues and support each other, because that's what we need right now. We need support. We need more love. I want to see it more. We're all under a lot of pressure right now and feeling very confused. And who knows, maybe something will come of this. Maybe our leaders will find us and they'll say, hey, you guys have been studying the Constitution. Let's ask your advice on something. Who knows? We never know anything. I know nothing. I know a little bit more today because I read all of this, and I'm very grateful. And like, I totally did have to memorize those Bill of Rights back in high school, but again, that's been a long time. So I really like. I remembered like the first and the second, and that was it. But now I feel very good. Hi, Ethan. Good to see you. Hope you have a beautiful day there in Taiwan. Um, I'll see you soon. I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining today, for holding space for this, and for, wanting to talk about the Constitution. I hope it's been an educational experience for you. I look forward to hosting this again next week. Please come back, tell your friends. Let's make this, a thing. And thank you, Dimitri. Much love. Goodbye, guys.